bit of the way, or are you down? I can't remember which one it is, but it's like there's not as much up and down anymore for a little bit. Is that right?
Yeah, so through Virginia, it's pretty rolling hills. The funny thing is, while you're, getting towards Virginia, I know that's pretty early on in the trail. They're like, oh, just wait till you get to Virginia. It's flat. It's flat. And then you get to Virginia and you're like, wait, this isn't flat. Nothing of the trail is flat. It's just rolling hills, which is really nice. So it's kind of gradient climbs. It's really beautiful.
I didn't realize there's a portion of the trail that runs very close to Washington, D.C.
Yes.
Very close.
I'm pretty sure that's Harper's Ferry. You can take a train into D.C.
So you can actually, and I don't know, like I say, I've read so much, and obviously after my comment about the Longhorn cattle, I don't know what I've read is true or not now, but
I mean, there could be.
A portion of it, I'm going to Google it now, but there's a portion of the trail that goes close to D.C. You can actually see the Washington Monument from part of the trail in the fall. Is that true? Would that be true?
There's the old Washington Monument you actually pass by on the trail, if I'm not mistaken. But I never saw D.C. Now, you can see New York City from the trail.
Okay.
That's cool.
Awesome. Yeah, that is cool.
So cool. On a clear day, it has to be clear, but way off in the distance, you can see New York City, which is pretty awesome. So sometimes if I didn't do either of these trips because I've been to both of these large cities before, and I just felt like it might be a little overwhelming after all the time spent in nature, but through hikers can catch a train to either of those because the trail goes right through these towns with trains. So a lot of times hikers will catch a train to DC or New York if they've never been to any of those places, and they can kind of cross that off their bucket list too.
During the trail, sometimes there's a lot of people, and then sometimes there's not very many people at all. And you said you were with a group. You kind of, what'd you call them? A trail family?
Yeah, so people typically call them a tramily.
Okay. Sometimes there's days when you talk to others. Sometimes you don't. How does that work? What's the dynamic of that like? I mean, is it?
Yeah, that is kind of interesting, and it goes person by person, but with my family, we would all camp at the same place, get up at the same place, so I'd say I was kind of I don't want to say ringleader of the group, but I was the planner. So I would say, hey guys, I had planned for us to get 20 miles, so let's get to, whatever the name of the shelter is. And we'd all agree on it. And kind of throughout the day, we'd all flip-flop, I guess is the word I'm looking for, where one person would get ahead, then the next person. We'd all meet up for lunch if possible. If not, we'd see each other. A lot of the day, I would say, after my friend left, her name is Stoke, and after she left, I would spend a lot of the day hiking with random hikers or by myself, listening to podcasts or listening to audiobooks, listening to music, and then just kind of listening to my own thought was kind of fun because we never really get time to do that in our busy lives.
No, so true that we don't get to remove ourselves from day-to-day stuff. Did you ever doubt that you would make it the whole way through? I mean, was there ever a day you woke up and said, I'm not going to do this anymore? Or?
So there were definitely days I had doubts. I would say probably in that first month, I didn't dislike the trail at all. I loved every minute of it, but I definitely had doubts. I guess doubts is the wrong word, but I had fear. Just like we had mentioned earlier, anything can happen. Not only something with my physical well-being, but something with family member. Something could happen with money and I would have to get off the trail. Something, there's so many external factors that go into it. So I guess that's kind of where my doubt maybe stem from, because you always hear, only 1 in 4 hikers make it the whole way. Kind of thought, the odds are probably against me, but I've done this before and I'm prepared and I'm mentally ready for it. And there was not a single day for me that I thought, hey, I don't want to do this. Because if I felt like I didn't want to do it, I would have gotten off the trail, I think. And I genuinely woke up every day so thankful to be given the opportunity to do something on my bucket list.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. I mean, and it would be hard. I hadn't really thought about that aspect of it, but you basically removed yourself from family, from society as a whole for 6 months of your life and said, I can't have any, or you can, but I'm not going to have any outside influence here. I mean, like you say, death in the family, God forbid, or sickness or anything like that, to where you have to leave the trail to go to tend to something, that you have to leave, not your being, but someone else's. So that's, so, I was reading earlier just a little bit about the trail. I didn't realize it passed through 14 states. What was your favorite part? What if you could go back right now, and you may have, I mean, I don't know, but if you could go back and hike a certain section of the trail, first of all, I guess, would you do it again, the whole entire trail again?
I'm going to be honest. Not right now, just because there are 2 other trails that I really want to do, the Pacific Crest Trail and also the Continental Divide Trail. So there's just too many other trails that I want to do that of course I want to do the Appalachian Trail again. Will I? I'm not sure.
I was reading, when I lived in California, I was looking at the Pacific Crest Trail, and the John Muir Trail is part of that, I believe, at one point. And it goes through Yosemite, where I lived in the Central Valley. So we had Sequoia National Park, Kings Canyon, Mount Whitney was close by. But I remember there was someone that was a thru hiker on the Pacific Crest Trail, and he took a selfie every single day. Have you seen that YouTube video that he made?
I have. That's so cool.
Where he takes a selfie every day at the same time, and you can see his beard starts to get thicker and thicker. Yeah, that is so cool.
Loses weight.
But the Pacific Crest Trail, and I don't want to get off topic with the AT here, but the Pacific Crest Trail is about 400 miles longer, I think. So
it is. Yeah,
you're looking at...
Yeah, it is about 400 miles longer. And then the Continental Divide Trail is about 3,000 miles.
Well, I kind of got off question here. I asked you if you would hike a certain part of it. What was your favorite part of the trail? What was your...
Yeah, I was going to say my favorite part of the trail would probably be the White Mountain in New Hampshire. They were unlike anything else on the trail. They were rugged and very challenging, and when you're in New Hampshire, you're nearing the end. You're kind of tired and run down at this point. It's amazing and exhausting and breathtaking, and it's just absolutely beautiful there. So I would say, definitely the White Mountains.
When folks think of Connecticut, New Hampshire, New York, Maine, if you haven't ever been, you don't think about the mountains. What's your least favorite part of the trail?
Let's see. I'm just gonna probably say Pennsylvania, just because of the rocks. I mean, it was pretty, and there's not a great supply of water there either. So you're dehydrated. The bugs are bad. The snakes are bad. There's rocks. It's just kind of not the best.
Yeah,
but it's still beautiful.
And does that cover a large portion? Because I know Pennsylvania is a big square state. I know on the far eastern side, it's kind of narrow, but is there a lot of the trail that runs through Pennsylvania?
I believe it's the second largest, right behind Virginia. So I think I'd say it's like 400 miles go through.
Okay.
I could be wrong. It might be, but it felt like 400 if so.
Last but not least, at the very end of the trail is the mountain in Maine. So ironically, you've walked, up and down mountains. You've braved the late winter, early spring, rains, thunderstorms, mosquitoes, bears, snakes, rats. You get to the finish line in Maine, and let's talk about what's at the very end of the trail, the mountain at the end of the trail.
So the mountain at the end is called Katahdin, and it's what you think about the entire, 5 to 6 months that you're out there. It's not an easy hike, I'm going to be honest. I mean, they definitely didn't, make it easy that last day. But so the cool thing is you get to the A-Ball Bridge campsite and you stay the night there. And it was actually all full, so I had to get a hitch into town and actually stay in town the night before I hiked up Katahdin. But you get up and you do the 5-mile hike up to the top, and you're with these people that you've been hiking with for the past 5 months, and uh, there's no way I can really put it into words, to be honest. Just the emotions, like I'm getting chills right now just thinking about how emotional and special that day was for me, because, you take all those doubts and fears that you had the entire time, and you never really knew if you were going to make it. And you're like, hey, I think I'm going to make it now.
Yeah.
And, it's so special and so amazing. And it's the best view on top of any mountain I've ever had. And so special. I got up there and I was with two good friends, and we all cried when we got to the top and took our pictures and hung out there for a while, and then we hiked back down.
How tall is that mountain in Maine at the end of the trail?
It's not that tall, to be honest. I think it's not as high up as Klingman's Dome. But where you start out, there's quite a bit of elevation change there. And in fact, there's an age restriction, and it's a sacred Native American area. So one day a year it's closed and no hikers are allowed up there to hike. And it's a very special area, but it's a very strenuous hike. I will say it is a hand over hand rock climb to the top. I mean, it's dangerous.
Oh wow, that's the trail. That's the trail is hand over rock. Oh wow.
Yeah, you're like rock climbing at one point. And so that's why when it's bad weather, they don't let people summit. And, it's only open a few months of the year, and they only allow a certain number of parking passes for that day, and they only allow a certain amount of people up. So it's a very special place. I feel lucky to have climbed it.
Yeah. So put it in perspective. You've walked 2,200 miles, 6 months of your life dedicated to the trail, and you get there and there's a chance that you might not be able to finish because of the weather or because of the crowds or because of something.
Yeah. So typically it's worth it to wait around a few days, obviously. So, and you kind of, as you're getting closer to Katahdin, we were checking the weather and seeing, like, oh, this will be a good day to summit. We should, do extra miles, or maybe we should do a little bit less miles so that we can make sure we're there on a, cloudless day. And it all works out. It will work out.
Yeah. That's just the emotion after being just, spending 6 months of your life walking that far and accomplishing this. The emotion must be overwhelming. I just can't imagine.
I was not expecting to cry when I got up there, but when you've envisioned this moment every hour of every day, because I wouldn't say I was constantly thinking about it, but it's kind of why you do the trail, you're trying to get to the end of it. So it was very special, and it kind of just proved like, hey, I did this thing, and no one can take it away from me.
That's right. Never. So when did you start the trail? What day did you start and what day did you finish?
I believe I started on a Friday, actually. And I want to say it was March 14th. And then I finished, I believe it was, March, April, May, August. I finished in August on like the 13th. So just right under 5 months.
Wow. You smoked it then. I mean,
I honestly, I didn't go too crazy, but in the beginning, I hiked pretty fast. And then as I realized that I was getting towards the end, I decided to take a more relaxed pace.
When you, and I appreciate you taking the time for this, and again, a million questions, but, when you got back in the car or whatever you did after you came down the mountain and you went back home or whatever, and you slept in a bed, your own bed for the first time, besides, being in a sleeping bag, being in a tent, being in a shelter, being in a motel, a hostel, hotel, whatever. Did you ever wake up in the middle of the night or wake up in the morning and freak out because you weren't still on the trail?
There definitely were a few mornings where I was like, wait, where am I? And it's funny too, because at that time, I had been living in Nashville, and so I moved back in with my parents, which they were happy to bring me in, but I was like staying in a guest room at my parents' place.